Because coming to the panel stage now is someone who I think, like a lot of us, was part of our teenage, maybe younger, but mostly teenage years for me especially. Growing up into the horror movie scene, into the cult classic horror movie scene, and then of course Bill and Ted. But then as a film student, man, our guest right now has really done some really wonderful work in the documentary filmmaking perspective too that I got to study when I was doing film school. And so this guy is a multiple faceted, very talented guy of the entertainment industry. Please welcome Mr. Alex Winter.
Yeah. There he is.
Hey there.
How's it going, dude?
Pretty well. I'll call you Royal Ugly Dudes. That would be very nice.
You just do me a quick favor, Alex,
Yeah.
put that guy on for us.
We got to be heard over this crowd.
Well, thank you for being a guest for us, man.
Sure.
I hope that you're having a good day so far.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a madhouse.
Right on, right on. I was saying when I introduced you, you know, your filmography, the stuff that you worked on in front of and behind the camera, is a vast array of different subjects, matters, you know, especially when it comes to the documentary side of things.
Yeah.
When you first kind of broke in, were you always thinking actor, or did you want to be a filmmaker? Like, where were you going before you got into the biz?
Well, I started acting professionally when I was 9 years old. And I started making films when I was about 8 or 9 years old. If I wasn't incredibly old, I would have been shooting them on my iPhone and sticking them on YouTube. But as it happened, I was shooting them on 8mm and cutting them on like a splicer in my basement. So I always did both. And I was on Broadway all through my teens, and then I saved up my money and put myself through film school off of the acting money. So when I came out of film school, I needed a job, and I still had a manager, and I went back to acting. But it wasn't because I didn't like acting. I love doing both. So I've always done both. I've worked my whole life.
The first Bill and Ted, I can remember going to the video store with my father, him saying like, we gotta show you this movie. Going home, watching it, and just the array of characters that you guys got to interact with right off the get. Like I just went, my wife and I, we took my parents to Paris.
Yeah.
And like Napoleon is godlike there still to this day.
Right. You mean the real one?
The real one.
Okay.
Yes.
It'd be really great if it was the Napoleon from Bill and Ted.
No, yeah.
Somehow, like, had overtaken the real Napoleon.
Yeah. Statue faces changed, everything else.
Yeah.
But like you guys, like William Sadler, we had him on our show that we do year round and stuff, and the cast of characters for you and Keanu to play with,
Yeah.
right off the get go, like that had to have just been an ultimate time.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, all the movies are so different, but I think all the Bill and Ted movies, I think they all have this kind of inherent sense of childhood play in them. And, you know, Keanu and I were not, I wouldn't call us jaded, but we both been acting a long time when we did those movies, but it was still one of those things where you were on set and you'd be like a little kid. Like we'd walk out, I think in fact, maybe the Wild West scene, there's one scene in Bill and Ted 1 where we're literally just talking and just like, can you believe we're on a Wild West scene? And I don't think we quite understood the camera was worldly. It's literally just us being really enthusiastic because it was so fun to be like on a Wild West set. And then we're like, oh, we've kind of become these characters. So it kind of, the whole shoot had a kind of sense of play to it, you know. being in the medieval castle and like all the ad-libbing with the swords and the knights of armor and the babes. And so that was, I think there's like a spirit, like a sincere spirit to them that carries over, because we are like two idiots.
The thing that comes across both of you guys, following you on social or interviews or hearing stuff is like, you guys are very like genuine people. And I mean, what I mean by that is like, sometimes, when you reach a certain standard, I would imagine it's easy to kind of get lost in the sauce of the whole entertainment industry. But you guys have always seemed so like well-rounded, and you hear these acts of philanthropy that Keanu will do for people, or whatever. It's,
well, he's Canadian. He's just being Canadian.
And when I was in film school, we watched Downloaded.
Oh, cool.
And but just like finding bits and pieces of you just talking about the craft of filmmaking,
Mm-hmm.
It is really cool to get to like hear someone with the deep appreciation of both sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Keanu, it is the same for Reeves. He produces a lot of stuff he's in, or even if it's not something he's credited for. We're both kind of like filmmaking actor people who like the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And also we've both been at it a really long time, and we just worked together last year, so it's one of those things where if the business doesn't make you cynical, it keeps you somewhat childlike. I think it's one of the other things that I feel we're both kind of childlike in our appreciation for what we do and get to do. So it's not like there aren't hard days or hard whatever. It's a hard industry, but I do love what I do. So it's always, I do like both sides.
Bill and Ted, I don't know if you are a Halloween fan at all, but they're...
No, I hate Halloween. I'm sorry. I just hate it. I don't know why. That weird peccadillo. I love Halloween. I have 3 boys. Still celebrating Halloween.
Universal, they do their Halloween Horror Nights event each year for the longest time.
Yeah.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure was a staple.
That's right. I heard about it. Yeah.
And it really kept the fandom alive even more than if it was just the movie thing. Because going to that event, going to that show, you hear people talk, and it's like they watch the show and they're talking about going home and watching the movies and everything. And so the Bill and Ted fandom stays alive for decades, and you guys get to circle back and make Face the Music.
Yeah.
What was that like? Whole process like? What was that like for you guys to come back into those sneakers, so to speak?
It was fun. It was hard. We didn't think we needed or wanted another one. That includes the family, right? Me, Keanu, and myself, and the 2 writers, Chris and Scott, produced by people who've been on it from the very beginning. We all felt very happy with the way Bogus Journey ended, and didn't really see a reason to do a 3rd. And one night I was having a barbecue at my house, and with them, we were just all friends, and Kristen had pitched us this idea for 3. And it was a really good idea. It was a really good idea because it was funny because we were older. So it wasn't like trying to pretend we were the way we were when we were 30 some odd years before. And we're like, great, we love this idea. And they went off and wrote it for free on spec, what they call spec. And then no one wanted to make it. And 12 years later, we made it. And for 12 years, we just worked on the script, and they made it better. It wasn't why no one wanted to make it. It was really good to begin with. Just nobody wanted to make it. But to your point, it really was the fan base that got it made. The studios have never wanted to make Bill and Ted movies. They're really weird, right? Considering how well known they are as a franchise, they're like this very maverick kind of indie thing. Yeah. And eventually, we convinced financiers because the fan base was so vocal about one. By then, word had gotten out we were trying to make it 3rd, and the fan base was quite vocal that they wanted. So we got it off the ground. We're really happy we did. It was incredibly fun to do.
Was it always going to be the girls as
Yes.
far as the ultimate.
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, always. I mean, the root idea was that it's about family and, you know, what you do. I don't know, do you guys ever see the documentary Anvil, about the band Anvil? Did you
Yeah.
see that? It's great, right? It's a documentary about a band that was really big in their day and then kind of dwindled and then got back together as middle-aged guys, and they still have all the passion for the band, but their lives have just taken over as it does, right? And that's why I said to the guys, like, I want to play this like we're Anvil, basically. That was my motivation. It's a very beautiful movie, actually, and I thought the guys did a great job with this one.
Well, being in Northern California, there's a movie, and speaking of ensemble cast, there's another movie that has a great ensemble cast that, my God, the popularity of has just still, it's as rampant today as it was when it first came out.
Yeah, first three you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. But man, like going to.
There's a good ensemble in that film.
Yeah. Going and watching The Lost Boys at the boardwalk, which
Yeah.
they do every summer. Still, they'll show that thing.
Yeah,
And
heard of it.
the beach is shoulder to shoulder on those nights, still to this day. Every once in a while, the guy who played the saxophone will
Tim,
come out there. Yeah.
he has a name. His name is Tim Capello. He's amazing.
That movie for the horror fandom
Yeah.
is, it's not even a cult classic, it's a classic. How was your experience working with, you know, that cast, those sets? Because those sets, you talk about the Bill and Ted sets being cool. I mean, your guys' Vampire Lair is also awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in anything as cool as The Lost Boys. I mean, honestly. Like, and I've done things that are great, that I love. I don't mean great like we're so great or anything. I mean, that I'm really happy with the way they came out. It's not like, I don't feel that way about anything else. But Lost Boys was cool. Like, it was just, Joel was cool. Everybody wanted to be in it. Everyone was auditioning for it. Everyone knew it was going to be cool. We didn't quite know what the hell he was going to do. We didn't quite know what movie we were in when we got there. Started shooting it, and they gave me that wardrobe and that hair. But it wasn't exactly what I had in mind. You know, it was, I've been in the business a while. It's one of those experiences that, like, the movie industry is weird because it's kind of a glamorous thing in its way, I guess, right? But when you're doing them, they're hard and they're a grind. I mean, you're very happy and grateful to be doing them, but they're hard and they're a grind and they're not glamorous to be making them.
Sure.
And yet Lost Boys had a glamour. I think because Joel came from fashion design and wardrobe, and the whole cast was so incredible. Behind the scenes, everyone who was shooting it, and production designer, DP, everyone was so incredible, like just top. It was one of those movies where I was like, wow, like you knew you were lucky to be in it. And I didn't care that I had no lines and had to wear like assless chaps and a mullet. But I guess chaps are always assless to be fair. But it was cool. And I came from theater, and like there was Diane Wiest and Edward Herman, people that I knew from New York here, Bernard Hughes, huge actor on the stage.
Yeah.
And then this incredible like the Coreys and like people that I knew from Goonies and all that. Kiefer was young and just starting out. He just had Stand By Me come out, like his first thing. But we all became really, like, you know, we're still really good friends. We'll do cons together. We all love hanging out. And it's a trip. You know, it is weirder to me in a way and more lovely to have the friendships have lasted. Because they often don't in our industry. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I would say that just the experience of doing this job, it seems like the horror genre kind of fosters that a little bit more than
That's
other
interesting. I think
genres.
you're probably right about that. Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right about there's something to that. And there's something to the kind of collective of making horror, you know, from a filmmaking side too. People who make comedy tend to be very angry, solitary people. That's why they're in comedy. So maybe you get less of that. They just kind of go back to grumbling when they're home. Maybe some of facetious, but not entirely. But horror, yeah, the horror work I've done has always been very collective,
Yeah.
like a family, basically, which is interesting.
One horror movie that first time that I watched it was probably, 5 years ago, something like that. But one thing for practical effects is always, hand in hand with horror.
Should be,
The
ideally.
the practical effects makeup that you went through for free
Yes.
was crazy, like crazy. Like the whole transformation, the face prosthetics were, it's still very much you, but you're becoming this boldest, free thing.
Yeah.
What was that like for you as far as sitting in the chair? I imagine it had to be like an hours upon hours process.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, it was doing the old Bill and Ted for 3, it was still hours. And I did this movie called Destroy All Neighbors that was also hours. With Bill Corso, who did my applications on 3, back to that. And Bill ran the makeup on Bill and Ted 3. I mean, there's like a handful of people who are the best in the world at this. And I'm grateful that I've gotten to know quite a few of those people, and we've remained very close friends. I think it's because a lot of actors hate acting in prosthetics, and I came out of Broadway and very hyper-character work oriented acting as a kid. And I was a huge movie buff when I was little, like really little, like 6, 7, 8, 9. There was no video in those days. There was no Blockbuster video, so I'd go to the movies and watch like Lon Chaney movies and Hammer Horror and Chaplin and Keaton and all this stuff when I was really young. And I was really into Lon Chaney, so by the time I was like 9 or 10, I was starting to apply latex and do stuff with makeup. And then like the Dick Smith kit came out after The Exorcist, and I got that and was doing like more elaborate makeup. So when I started acting and these people realized I liked doing this, they were like,
Stick it on.
yeah, they were like, get it on. So by Bill and Ted, so Lost Boys, I was working with Greg Cannon, who was one of the best in the world who passed away. By the time we did Bill and Ted 2, they knew I wanted to do prosthetics, so we wrote the granny part for them to do. And when we got around to 3, it's like there's a ton of prosthetics.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bad for Keanu, who does not, like most normal people, like having stuff glued to his face for hours on end. But he's such a trooper that, like, for Freaked, I mean, my makeup is really gnarly in that movie. And I co-directed it with Tom Stern, so I knew what I was in for. Keanu signed on to play the dog boy, and that hair is glued in, like, on his face individually, like, almost follicle by follicle. And he would show up in the morning, it was like 100 degrees outside, at 4 in the morning for like this 4-hour process of glue. Painted on his face with hair. I look at him and I was like, better you than me, man. I'd much rather have my mouth ripped open than have that happen. Yeah, it was very fun.
Do you have like a thing people talk about, like they meditate or they do anything while they're in the chair? And
I don't mind prosthetics, so I don't really need to dissociate. I'm usually like talking to the makeup folks.
People.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll go to sleep. Like the Ricky makeup took so long, and I was co-directing, and I was getting so little sleep. I eventually started sleeping to save time, because there just was not enough time in the day for me to co-direct and get in the makeup and act in it and sleep. So I would drive home with this giant Ricky head, and like with it sticking out the window of my car. It's LA, so nobody batted an eye. And then Bill would touch it up in the morning. I could get away with like 3 days before it started to rot.
The thing that is interesting with you doing theater and then directing and acting is, I would imagine that gives you a perspective that not many would have. You have the live audience experience.
Yeah.
And you, as an actor, I know when we're making our, independent stuff, having the acting experience definitely helped me when we have brought in actors that we don't know, be able to try to convey as a director what it is that you would like them to do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think with film that it's important to kind of try to put yourself into as many different avenues as possible to gain that perspective?
I mean, it's helpful, but I don't think it's necessary. or essential, but it's helpful for me. Like when I went to direct documentaries, talking to a doc subject is very similar to talking to an actor. And I knew how to gain actors' trust because I've been an actor and I knew how I like directors talking to me, and how I did. Especially since I started as a child, where you really are sensitive to how you're spoken to by grown-ups.
Yeah.
So I had very specific ideas about how I did or did not want to be spoken to by grown-ups. So it's certainly been helpful to my directing and my directing docs. It's really helpful. That's all about gaining trust in your subjects and then keeping that trust, like not selling them up river, not betraying that trust. But I don't think it's imperative. I do think that most directors who I respect, I've noticed that they will take some acting classes. They'll do things to round themselves out more, and they'll take it upon themselves to go do that. So, but there are some directors who really don't do that. Like I don't think David Fincher would do something like that. I don't think he's great with actors and has a very specific way in. But it has definitely been helpful to me. Like it's a big part of my process.
Your documentary filmmaking, that is one of the hardest things to do, is to make a documentary, because you're accumulating like all the material.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, a film, narrative film, could take years to make. But a documentary, I've interviewed documentaries where it's like decades of work, just because you're pulling from so much, depending on the subject material.
Yeah.
For you, because you've done several, what is it about documentary filmmaking for you that like kind of drew you to get into that?
I mean, I like certain topics that tend to. I was making a movie about Napster at Paramount. Napster was the file sharing thing that blew everything open. The planet we're living on now. And it was kind of the end of when they were making movies that size. That kind of died. It's sort of coming back. It died for a long time, streaming it. And I couldn't get it. I had it set up at Paramount. Paramount, everyone there got fired. The movie went into what's called turnaround, which means they're not making it. It's like a polite way of saying we're not making the movie anymore. There was nobody there to make it. And I wanted to tell that story, and I'd written the script, so I knew everything. So I thought, well, this would make a better doc, and I sold that in like a day. It was easier to make. And it was a lot less money to make a doc in the future. And I loved it so much I kept going. But I like real people. I like talking to real people and getting kind of embedded in their lives. And I think that comes from acting as well. Being interested in characters. When I was acting, I'm a character actor. Really, I did always do a lot of research. So I'm a research junkie, and docs are for research junkies. So I like digging in and digging. Even when we did Waiting for Godot on Broadway last year, I spent like 2 years researching Beckett. Maybe longer, actually. We went to England, we went all over, and we like just soaked up everything on his life. It was really helpful to play that character, actually. So it's just something that I enjoy. I like research. You have to make documentaries.
And like, there's that line. You did the Frank Zappa documentary.
That took years, yes. That took
And-
many, many, many years.
And I would imagine that there's like this line that that documentary does really well, where you like, it's like a subject matter, but like you're saying, it takes years. Like, for you, is there like a line that, as a filmmaker, that you kind of know that you have to toe, or is there anything?
I mean, I have ethics, so like I like following my own ethical standards. Like I don't like selling out my subjects. I don't like making gotcha stories where you basically reel someone in and then
Expose
put
or
an
whatever.
exploding cigar in their mouth.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
Not interesting to me. Doesn't mean you don't get well-rounded on who these people are and like what they're, the hard, the kind of worse in all aspects of their lives. But you can do that without knifing somebody.
Yeah.
So there are those concerns I have. Ethics, I've made some pretty intense political docs that required very careful navigating and encryption and things like that
Yeah.
to keep people safe. So yeah, those are things that I have to think about.
In the future, for people that maybe go into film school or have an interest, earlier panel today, Pam Greer was like,
Pam Greer. Oh, man, they don't come to that?
Yeah.
Pam Greer is like a titan. Like if you look at what she's done and her background and stuff, it will blow your mind. You might think you know her. Oh, I know her from Jack Brown. I mean, she was in Bogus Journey doing it. It was a very, we only shot with her a couple of days. I was so starstruck. Farrell, her whole resume of her face. She's really amazing. Yeah, she's very wise.
But she said if you want to make a movie, pick up a phone and make a movie.
Yeah.
With how long you've been in the business, where the industry is now, 2026, do you have any, kind of advice or perspective of like where you think that the whole entertainment thing is going?
Nobody knows that. I wish we had a crystal ball. I actually optimistically think it's kind of reverting in a way right now, which is great. People are making movies again. If you look at how well Backrooms and Obsession did, at the movie theater, like, and the amount of execs who were like scratching their heads going, but, and just to stick with horror for a second, a few years back, they made Smile at Paramount, and that was not supposed to be theatrical. It was supposed to just go right to Paramount Plus to stream. And I had a little bit of inside track. My wife was working at Paramount at the time, and my friend of mine was actually running the studio weirdly. We'd come out back day together. And I remember when he decided to run that theatrical, people were telling him it was really dumb. And it made a fortune, and everyone went to the movies. And those of us who were old were like, yeah, people like going to the movies, guys. So I think things are reverting a little, because I think that, I've always been saying you can have a world where there's streaming and movies. It doesn't have to be so either or. Like, we don't ever get movies anymore, or it's only like one Christopher Nolan movie and everything else goes to streaming.
Sure.
So I think things are kind of, water is finding its level, and we're kind of reverting, even with TV and things like that. But I do think there's a lot of challenges to making stuff now, but I think the upside is what Pam said. The upside is like when I didn't come from a family with any money, and like, I started working largely as a kid to feed my movie habits. It was expensive, right? Like mowed lawns to buy an 8mm camera. I was like making money to buy film. I had to get it processed. I had to edit it. And there was no way to distribute it in those days. Now you can shoot it on your phone, cut it on your laptop, and distribute it on the web. All for no cost. Like, you still need money to get those things. It's not enough, right? So it still requires some privilege. I think that's important to note. But you have the whole means of production in your hands in a way you just did not know. And so if you're good and you work hard and you tell good stories, one really quick anecdote on the Backrooms Obsession thing, like Hollywood being typical of itself, when that happened, like all the execs I knew were like, oh my God, like it's AI, it's YouTube, it's like the age of technology. It's like, I was like, you guys, these are just young guys or gals who just don't suck. Like, it's not about YouTube or AI or anything technological. And like right after that, the kid who made Backrooms like gave this whole rant about how shitty AI is. I was like sending that to all my friends who were executives, like, see, even he doesn't like it. It's just about knowing how to tell a good story, telling a good story, and if you're good at that, your stuff will carry over. Yeah. So you have to get good at story. So, which goes back to the caveman painting on walls. It doesn't really change with technology.
Sure. Anybody have questions that they would like for Alex? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I love the movie Freaked. I'm really obsessed with it. And any other good stories about Mr. T or Randy Quaid on the set or anybody?
There are none. No.
Okay.
I mean, we'd have to like gather around for like the next 10 hours. They're both so great. I saw Randy at a con, I think, like a year ago. I've seen him in ages. It was so good to see him. See him kind of back with the fans again. But look, we were two 25-year-olds who'd never shot a 35 when we made that. And it was an incredible gift to get the amount of money we got to make what we wanted to have that cast. So it was a dream. You probably know we just got a re-release that we went back to Disney, got the rights, went back to the negative, and made a new color correct, a new master. So you can get that film better looking than it's ever been now, finally. It took 30-some-odd years.
I love the soundtrack too. George Clinton, Rollins. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, Lenny God and Rollins and all that.
Incredible.
Yeah. And it was also just being young, kind of basically indie filmmakers, because we made that movie and we had this huge soundtrack planned, and the studio got taken over by a new chairman who scrapped the movie and all the movies